AEW Revolution 2025, March the 9th. Oh, I'm sorry, March 10th. I'm sorry. No, it's March the 9th. It ended on the 10th. Jesus Christ, I don't know what day or time it is. So, we're going to talk about this show. They got over 10,000 people in the building. So, that was great. They got a couple of celebrities to show up. Big Gorilla Cookies. What's her name? Leslie Jones. Every time I see her, I think about that Sanford and Son joke where Fred Sanford says he's gonna put Esther's face in some dough to make some gorilla cookies. So I'm gonna start calling her Gorilla Cookies every time I see her. I was literally in tears when I saw her because that's the first thing that came to my mind is Gorilla Cookies. So there it is. Anyway, we're going to talk about this show as we usually talk about these shows. There was nothing really in terms of news and notes to discuss. I can't think of anything major that's worth talking about. If anything comes to mind, I'll talk about it after I do the review. So let's review the show, starting with the main event. Christian Cage spoils his contract. Moxley defeats Christian Cage in one of the most boring matches this side of the equator. Have mercy, sweet Jesus. This thing did not start until at least 11:30. What a disaster. So, this match was not helped by at least 3 or 4 other matches on the show. Bleeding all over the place, plunder, just all sorts of stuff happening. Guys jumping off cages and doing all the high spots possible in the early part of the show. So we finally get to the main event. We got the Grizzled Vets. They're working a chin lock. Meanwhile, just not long before this actually, guys were getting their dicks full of thumbtacks. I mean, this is a very strange new model of pay-per-view building, where nobody cares if the main event is overshadowed. This has been a thing with indie wrestling and all this kind of stuff for over a decade now. It never ceases to amaze me that they believe that Moxley and Edge are the main event and drawing all the money, but will not ensure that they have the best match possible, and will instead have them get showed up pretty much every week. Oh, it doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't even matter. We were 3.5 hours into this show when this match started. I wanted it to end almost immediately. So let's finally get into the match itself. There was nothing worth really sitting down talking about in terms of moves. I admittedly was not paying that close of attention. All I know is Wheeler Yuta came out. Then that brought out Jay White. Jay White was trying to help, and then he ended up smashing Edge in the head with a chair. This was booked to be accidental, but it was only a 2 count. So one of the conspiracy theories was that Jay White was going to turn on Edge. At least I thought so. It seems Tony Khan figured people had figured him out on that tip, so he decided to throw a curveball, and that wasn't the finish. At that point, spoilers came out claiming that someone not in the match was going to win the championship. Many people claimed it was going to be Jay White. Christian was going to come out there with his contract. He would get jumped from behind. Jay White would steal the contract, cash it in, and win the title. I don't know why you would think that, considering Jay White has been positioned like garbage for a year now. I mean, it's just not likely. It's not WWE, for God's sake. So, I was not really all that expecting Christian to come in, but I wasn't surprised when it happened. They were just having the most mediocre, dreadfully mediocre match possible. And it went on forever. And then Christian shows up, he stops the pin. Instead of letting Edge win, he decided he was going to stop Edge from winning. And then he cashed in his contract. Then he smashed Edge in the head with the metal contract. Then he hit a spear, only got a 2 count. Then I think he hit another spear. And as he's trying to pin Edge, Moxley jumps on him with the bulldog choke. And you see Christian not trying to get to the ropes, which is, pretty close, or not trying to counter the hold, which, he probably could do with all his 30 years of experience in pro wrestling. I'm sure he can get out of a fucking chin lock, but whatever. He's trying to pin Edge. So the struggle is he's scratching and clawing to try to get to the unconscious Edge so that he can get a 3 count. And then Moxley is desperately got him in this chin lock. And then Christian goes to sleep. And that's it. And Moxley wins. And everybody collectively, everybody in the building, everybody on the internet, collectively slapped their forehead like, of all the options you had, this is what you came up with. This is what you came up with. Everybody who got down on their knees and prayed for the end of the Death Riders, it was a waste of a prayer. God is not a genie. You don't just get to rub that lamp and magic things happen. Okay? Tony Khan's got more for you. This was so bad I asked Grok about it. Alright? Like legit. I legit tweeted Grok about this thing. Let's look at our conversation. I asked Grok, very simple question. Grok, why did Tony Khan book Christian Cage to get choked out by Jon Moxley in the main event of AEW Revolution? I can't figure it out. Grok says, Tony Khan likely booked Christian Cage to get choked out by Jon Moxley at AEW Revolution to set up a bigger storyline. Christian has a title shot contract, and this loss builds tension for a future cash-in, maybe even to screw over Moxley or Cope. It's classic wrestling drama. Humiliate the heel to make his comeback hit harder. No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. AI can't even figure it out, alright? That's how bad this is. AI can't get it to work. Okay. You humiliated the heel, but what comeback? He has no rights to be in the main event now. And you spent all this time building up Christian. Well, you really didn't build him up, if we're being fair. But teasing that Christian's going to do something, only to throw it in the blender at the last minute. This is, you know what this is, to be quite honest? This is likely signaling the last couple of years, if we're being honest, have signaled that we don't need any more Money in the Bank contracts. I love the Money in the Bank gimmick. I truly do. I think that if you use it wisely, if you use it correctly, it could be one of the best things in terms of building stars, giving you the opportunity to change direction, fill in plot holes. There's a lot of things you can do with the Money in the Bank briefcase and gimmicks that are similar to the Money in the Bank. But the last 2 or 3 years, these Money in the Bank's gimmicks have been absolutely garbage. They have been very poorly executed, very poorly done. All right? And this is one of the worst ones so far. It's not up there with Austin Theory. Okay? It ain't up there with that. Christian didn't cash in on the goddamn Continental belt or something like that. He tried to be the world champion. But him losing, I mean, he's fresh as a fucking daisy. He was untouched. And he got choked out almost immediately. I don't even understand that. Like, he's not even a solid contender for the title. This guy comes in with a full health bar and loses. That's the weirdest fucking thing. Look, who cares? Alright? I don't care what's going to happen. Moxley's got a match with Swerve Strickland to deal with in the future. So, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. A lot of people are mad at Edge because he didn't do the job to Moxley. But Edge doesn't make the decisions. Tony Khan does. Even if Edge was like, I'm not doing the job, It was Tony Khan's responsibility to get him to do the job. If he didn't do the job, and I'm not saying that Edge refused. I'm saying that other people are saying that Edge refused. If Edge refused to do the job, that's Tony Khan's fault. That's not Edge's fault. Edge is going to protect Edge. Edge is going to look out for Edge. Tony Khan has to look out for AEW. Okay? But as far as I'm concerned, Moxley has never been that great in AEW. And I think he's been checked out for like 3 years now. I don't know when was the last time I saw him motivated. It might have been when he was working with Kenny Omega and they were doing all the fire and brimstone stuff that they were doing. That might have been the last time he was truly motivated to do anything in AEW. I don't think Moxley is motivated. I don't think he cares. This is just a paycheck. He don't want to go back to WWE. So he's going to work and he's going to take some ownership of the work. But he ain't putting forth maximum 100% effort. He really isn't. And it looks like nobody involved is. Like, it looks like everybody's in cruise control. Like, we can't fuck up the bag now, the money's guaranteed. So, if you're a Christian, my God, every opportunity you've had to change your image from being a guy who's in Edge's shadow, from being a jabroni, and you end up in this situation, you would think 20 years into your career doing stuff like this, you would stop it. Like, legit, if they would have come to me with that idea, I'd have been like, bro, it's not 2003. You know what I'm saying? Like, 2003, Christian was just happy to be in the main event. He'll go in there and do the job. Fine. Whatever. I'm just happy to be here. I think that's actually what happened in like 05, right? He was entered in a triple threat match and he took the pin. Right before Cena went and worked with Jericho. This is not that. This is 20 years later. Right? You're supposed to have some cachet at this point. And I get you want to help the kid. You want to help Tony. But this buried the Christian Cage character. Why is he even on TV at this point? He should go join Jericho in Ring of Honor. I mean, he just... And it's not like, Samoa Joe or somebody like that cost him this title shot. He lost it all on his own. Through his own ineptitude. He's dead. Who cares? Let's move on. Match 8. Will Ospreay defeats Kyle Fletcher. Okay. So what was all that stuff about Will Ospreay's entrance? There was like a lot of house music and bangity bang and all that. Then it just went to his regular theme. What was that about? I don't know. Why did Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher start the match at the top of the cage? Why did they do that? They were on opposite sides of the cage at that. And it's a cage, not a cell where they can meet in the middle or something like that. They're literally just standing at the top of the cage staring at each other. You can't get to him, he can't get to you. What are you doing that for? I don't know. Anyway, this match was so long. It was grueling. I know a lot of AEW fans, they love Will Ospreay. I just can't get into it. I don't think I'll ever be a fan, if we're being honest. Kyle Fletcher did good, though. I think he was good here. Especially when he was underneath. I think he did a really good job. So, you had Ospreay do some kind of top rope twist thing. Only got a 2 count. He was bloody by this point. They ended up with a baseball bat covered in barbed wire, which led to Kyle Fletcher begging off. And I like this. He tried to use the United Empire armband to trigger positive memories and Will Ospreay and saying like, okay, we've gone too far. Enough's enough. Don't hit me with that thing. And Ospreay was like, he hemmed and hawed about it. Then he just said, fuck, I'm going to kill this guy. And then as he comes forward, Kyle Fletcher hits him in the nuts. Pretty well done. Got to give him credit for that. Then you got Mark Davis. He's out there. I don't even care that he exists. He's in the match because he got some bolt cutters. He cut the cage door open. He's in the match. He's bleeding. He's fighting all over the place. He gets beat up too. Then Ospreay does an Os cutter off the cage, which I thought was pretty sweet. Then you got, this is when I thought the match was going too long. All the Mark Davis stuff was completely unnecessary. And then they doubled down on the unnecessary stuff, because now Kyle Fletcher's got a screwdriver, and he's randomly stabby with the screwdriver. He stabs him, and he's chasing him down, trying to stab him again. And I'm like, my God, enough's enough. Okay, we get it. So then Kyle Fletcher hits a brain buster on an open chair. That's not a 3 count. Then we got thumbtacks on this match. And I'm like, oh my God. We just saw people with glass and all this kind of stuff. Now we got thumbtacks in this match. Ospreay uses the Styles Clash on the thumbtacks. That's not the finish. But there's thumbtacks all in the abdomen and scrotum and penile area of Kyle Fletcher. And what kind of love for the business do you have? Did you take a thumbtack to your shaft for the business? I don't think so. But Kyle Fletcher did. What a goof. My God. So after that, Kyle Fletcher is on his knees, screaming about how much he hates Will Ospreay, calling him a son of a bitch, completely unprotected, and basically just sat still and got caught a hidden blade. They also did a Spanish fly off the top of the cage. Let's not forget that. But the crowd was kind of muted on the response to that, which was weird, you know. Anyway, after the hidden blade, the Tiger Driver drops, Kyle Fletcher on his head. 1, 2, 3. Match is over. So Ospreay wins the match. It was too long, probably 10 to 15 minutes before the finish. They did everything possible to each other. They tried to rope in every gimmick possible. There was chains. There was a chair. There was a barbed wire baseball bat. There were thumbtacks. They were jumping off the top of the cage. They were trying to have an epic cage match. And they just ended up having a long cage match. But Kyle Fletcher was good here. Except the spot where he just basically allowed himself to get ran over by Will Ospreay. This was good. I don't know why AEW insists on having their guys try to be defiant in their last moments, like giving the middle finger, fuck you, man. It's like, if you got all the energy to do all that, you got the energy to dodge, counter, roll away. Psychology. Fuck you, I hate your guts, man. It's like, if you got all that energy, roll out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. Whatever. And the finish was very flat, because once she hit the hidden blade, it was pretty much over. And then the Tiger Driver is just like a little cherry on top. Alright. Match 7. Kenny Omega versus Takeshita for the international title. This match was interesting. I don't think it's the best match they've had, but it was one of the better matches on the show for sure. So Don Callis early in the match got his hands dirty. He behind the referee's back, he's punching Kenny Omega in the head. Got some really great heat for that, and actually sold his hand, like his hand was injured. Takeshita forced Omega to actually work the diverticulitis, the rib cage and stomach. Pushed him off of, he was some kind of structure he was about to jump off of. I think it was a desk. Pushed him off of that. He goes stomach first into the barricade. Later on, because, Omega did moonsaults and all kinds of other flips after he hit his rib cage on the barricade. Takeshita did a forward suplex onto the edge of a table. So that continued that injury to the diverticulitis stomach. But that still didn't stop Kenny Omega. Sunset powerbomb from the top rope by Kenny Omega. Only a 2 count. But the spot of the match, without a shot of a doubt, was the extremely nasty Blue Thunder Bomb by Kenosuke Takeshita. That essentially, it looked like he lost him in there. It's still he landed kind of wonky, but I don't think Omega was hurt. But it seemed like he lost him on the big spin. But it was, boy, that was a nasty joint. So Omega wins, actually not with the one-winged angel. He teased it a couple of times, but he couldn't lift him. So he actually won the match with a crucifix pin. A regular wrestling hold. I actually think that's a good finish. It protects Takeshita because he didn't get beat flat in the middle of the ring. It tells a story that Omega couldn't even use the one-winged angel, which is what I want if he's going to be working the stomach and back and all that. He shouldn't be lifting up 220-pound guys on his shoulders if he can barely breathe, right? So, this match was solid. It was pretty solid. My only issue is Omega spams knees a lot. Like, if you're going to give Jey Uso shit for the super kicks, please give Kenny Omega the same amount of shit for all the knee strikes he throws in one match. Be honest with yourself. Enough of that shit. You know, enough's enough. What more could you ask for? There's just too many knee strikes. Just too much going on. So Kenny Omega is the international champion now. Takeshita is still the prized champion of Don Callis, but they're going to likely be angling towards a rematch. I thought this was pretty good. Again, I'm a fan of Takeshita from a wrestling standpoint, not necessarily from a character standpoint. And Omega he's better than Ospreay. I can tell you that much. They do a lot of the same stuff, but he's better than Ospreay. He's a little bit more mature. And I think he's also more limited due to age and wear and tear on the body. Match number 6. The bloody affair between Toni Storm and Mariah May. The Hollywood ending for the AEW Women's Championship. It featured tasers, chairs, broken glass, broken champagne bottles. People were stabbed. People were choke slammed off the stage. There was a lot going on here. All right. A whole lot. To be quite honest, I'm not a fan of this kind of stuff. But if you're gonna do it, this is the kind of feud that should do it. You know? If you're going to let women run the blade, which again I'm not a fan of, then this feud deserved it. They've been feuding for a year. You know? They've stabbed each other. They've bladed before. This isn't the first time Toni Storm has bladed in this and bled in this storyline. You know? This storyline started with Toni Storm being left bloody when Mariah May turned on her last year. So, the idea that I'm offended by the very idea of the women bleeding, no, it fits. This is how the storyline started, is how it must end. My issue here is the abject violence of the match. While it fits the story, I'm not sure it served the rest of the show. Now, again, you look at the block of matches here. There's Toni Storm and Mariah May. Then there's Takeshita and Omega. Then there's Fletcher and Ospreay. And between these 3 matches, you're seeing literally everything possible in wrestling. You got guys jumping off cages. You've got people being stabbed in 2 different matches. Blood in 2 different matches. Now, at least these 2 different matches, the Hollywood ending and the cage match, these are blood feuds that have been going on for a while. So you would imagine there would be some similarities between them. But neither one of these matches are the main event. So they're taking from the main event. You leave the main event guys with very little to do. Now, in terms of a match, I thought it was fine. I actually liked their second match better. the match in Australia. I think that was a better match. Even though they did a bunch of finisher spamming in that match, I thought it was better than this. You know, I'm not a big fan of death matches, let alone women's death matches. But it would be a lie to say that this feud did not earn the blood. It was gratuitous, but it wasn't unearned. It wasn't unnecessary. They had already been bleeding and spitting all over each other before we got here. They had been hitting each other in the head with champagne bottles and stabbing each other with shoes before we got here. All they did was incorporate everything from that point into this match. And I think they carried it out pretty well. And some people feel like this should have been the main event of the show. I honestly wouldn't have been too upset if it was. Considering all the stuff that they did, you know, Toni Storm did a sky high off the stage through a table. And this was in the early part of the match, too. It wasn't like late in the match. So it certainly wasn't the finish. You know. But I think the show would have been better served with this as the main event, if we're being honest. For me, it was a bigger draw. I was more interested in this than I was anything Ospreay and Omega were doing. And certainly more interested in this than Moxley and Edge. But they went on 6th. They brought out JR to call this thing. You know, they brought out JR to call it, and JR just basically he talks like he's in a video game now. He just spams his quotables. There's going to be a slobber knocker. That Jezebel. And that's basically, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I don't think he adds much to the show anymore. You know, but having JR come out call this basically tells you that this should have been the main event of the show. I will say this. I did like this one particular spot where Toni Storm got a shoe, which is her gimmick, is that she throws shoes. And at one point, I think she got stabbed with a shoe or something like that. And Mariah May saw Toni Storm with the shoe, and she tried to run away. It was so absurd that she's trying to run away from the shoe. But it makes sense in terms of story that they do terrible things to each other with shoes. All right, match 6. The Hurt Business defeat the Outrunners. There's not much to be said about this match except for why was it so long? And they had this goober, Turbo Floyd, actually hulk up on Shelton Benjamin. He hulked up on Shelton Benjamin. I didn't get that at all. But the Hurt Business won. Whatever. Match 4. Kazuchika Okada defeats Brody King. Brody King. Very heavy offense. Big solid dude. But being a big solid dude means nothing in AEW. Of course he lost. Omega is washed beyond all reason. There's a conversation floating around out there. Wade Keller is putting this in the ether. That Shinsuke Nakamura is not going to be re-signed to WWE. And that essentially they're going to run out his contract whenever it's going to be up next. They would be foolish to bring Nakamura into AEW. And I hope they do. I really, really hope they do. I hope he gets to come back and beat Michael Jackson and all that, to show whether he still got fire or whether he really is burnt beyond belief. Because I'm looking forward to all these Nakamura-Okada matches that could possibly happen later this year, if story is true. If the story is true. Which, there's no telling. But Okada is lazy beyond reason. He's not asked to do a lot. He's basically using his name to push himself at this point. The title is worthless. Brody King is a jabroni. This should have happened on TV. Really was no reason to do this match on this show. This is absolutely, much like the Tag Team Championship match, this is one of those matches that could have been deleted from the show. You just didn't need it. 9 matches are too many. 5 is not enough. 9 matches is too many. Alright? Especially when you stack them on top of each other and they just can't breathe. You know, like if you bake biscuits and you bake them too close together, that's how this show always, you know, like everybody who cooks anything knows that you have to, if you baking something and the flour is going to expand, you got to give it room, you know. But these matches never get any room. Never ever. Match 3, an actual good match. Swerve Strickland defeats Ricochet. So Swerve Strickland had a drummer for his entrance. And this was one of the worst drummers I've ever heard in my life. He was supposed to play the drums for Big Pressure. And it sounded terrible. He didn't enhance the atmosphere, the aura, or nothing of Swerve. He was basically in the way. I would rather just listen to Big Pressure than that guy play the drums. Whomever that guy was, alright? So, they did their tumbling routines early, as usual, which these guys do. And then business started picked up mid-match when Prince Nana decided he'd seen enough and he was going to leave. So he left. He got booed out of the building when he left. It was so much heat. At this point, I was like, man, is Nana going to come back and help Ricochet? You know, because it was so much heat. But I was like, it would make sense if you really wanted to put Nana with Ricochet. You know? They didn't go that route, but they made me think about it for a second. Old Gorilla Cookie, she showed up in this thing, and then so did that gay Korean guy. He was there as well. I don't know what his name is. He's just a gay Korean actor that I've seen in many, many movies. Swerve hits a powerbomb plus a power slam combo like he's Brock Lesnar. Ricochet's a little nigga, but come on. Swerve ain't huge. You know, Swerve hit a vertebreaker on the announce desk, which I thought was amazing. Jeez. Neither one of these were the finish, by the way. Ricochet kicked out of the top rope stomp. Later on, he hit the 630. Both of those got kicked out of. Nana returned, tried to steal the robe, but Ricochet caught him and got the robe back. Match continued until they kicked out of each other's finishers. He kicked out of the drive-by, which is the running kick to the head. Ricochet hit one of his moves, and Swerve kicked out of that too. And then finally, Swerve hits a Big Pressure, which is one of his flipping moves. And well, he didn't flip. It's one of these moves where, one of these overly complicated finishers where you pick your opponent up and turn them sideways and flip them and twirl them about, and he lands on the shoulder blades. And Swerve wins. Good match. This match, nothing wrong with it outside of maybe they did a little too much. Maybe the match went along too long, but overall, solid match. Didn't have a problem with this. I was wide awake for this. Enjoyed this. After the match, Swerve Strickland got down on one knee and gave Prince Nana his robe. Big moment. Crowd popped. Everybody's hugging. Nana's happy. He's dancing. Swerve is the number one contender. So now he's excited. Later in the show, he would jump off the balcony onto Moxley. The crowd went home happy because Swerve took Moxley out. The fans they have some level of hope because Swerve is the next contender. They want Swerve to win the title more than they want to breathe at this point. They would rather Swerve be champion than they continue breathing at this point. I'm not at that level, but I'm pretty close. I would stop watching AEW if we're being honest. But Swerve is good. There's obviously room for another match here. Like I said before, I think that now that Ricochet has taken the loss, the next step to elevate this feud, which is a blood feud because they were stabbing each other with scissors, is for Ricochet to destroy the robe. Maybe not this week. Maybe not next week. But Ricochet should get that robe and use them scissors to cut that robe in half. or to just tear the arms off of it or something. If you're not going to consider putting Nana with Ricochet, which, would probably be a hell of a lot of heat, then Ricochet needs to destroy that robe. All right? To continue this feud. Likely going to use Ricochet to cost Swerve the title, and then he destroys the robe. So, I'm thinking AEW Dynasty is when Swerve is going to get his title shot. That's next month. Is it late April? Like, it's going to be, is it around WrestleMania time, or is it shortly before WrestleMania? Whichever time they decide to do it. I think the idea of Ricochet letting Swerve think that this thing is over, only for him to double back later on, steal the robe, tear it up, and cost Swerve the championship. And now Swerve's got to come back and finish business. And they got to have their third match, and which is going to be a violent and bloody affair, where somebody's probably going to get stabbed in the mouth with a syringe and get HIV or something. But I liked the match. I thought it was good. Match number 2. Mercedes Mone defeats Momo Watanabe. What's so special about Momo Watanabe? This match didn't need to be on this show. She had eyes like Atom Bomb. They had like these nuclear green eyes that were in no way human. And I didn't see anything in this match that made me to believe that Momo Watanabe is one of the best female wrestlers in the world or anything like that. She was a generic Japanese wrestling girl. I mean, it is what it is. Billy Starks was watching this match very closely, so clearly they're building her up to be the next contender for Mercedes, which is fine, except she doesn't wrestle on the TV, so who cares? Mercedes can win all the matches she wants. None of these wins matter. She's basically just becoming a platform for the Japanese girls, which I guess is what she wants, but she also wants to win all the time. It begs the question, she's collecting all these belts. When is she going to start dropping them? Probably never. It's been a year. And, I don't think it's been a year yet. She came in this year. It feels longer than it really has been. But she came in this year. She didn't come in last year. Mercedes needs storylines. Right? The thing with Harley Cameron worked because Harley Cameron has such a big personality. A little too big of a personality, if you ask me. But it was able to that's how they microwave that thing to get it to work. But pretty much everybody else, you're going to need some serious time to build them up as a legitimate contender, considering Mercedes is beating everybody essentially by herself. She can survive everything and find ways to hit that, what they call it, the Mone maker or whatever. She's finding all these unique ways to do that. You got to build up some storylines, and Mercedes knows this. Sasha Banks absolutely is aware that storylines is what gets people over, and that winning these matches is not helping her at all, because it doesn't make her look bulletproof. It just makes her opponent look like a jabroni. They come out of the ether, challenge her for the belt, lose, and then disappear. I mean, come on. Match number 1. Hangman Page defeats MJF with the buckshot lariat. MJF got on the microphone, the headset for the commentators, and were cussing, saying that he's the man in this fucking place or something like that. He got frustrated at one point, screaming at Hangman Page, "What makes you so special? Why you and not MJF himself?" He's having a crisis in the goddamn middle of this match. These guys decided they were going to drop each other on the head a bunch of times. The story of the match was essentially MJF's frustration with his inability to keep Hangman down. Because Hangman's tough. He's ornery. He's going to keep coming at you. And that's the frustration for MJF. Is that he wants to be able to take Hangman out. But he can't. Because Hangman's too tough to die. Too stubborn to die. He's a cowboy. On a steel horse he rides. Come on. No, okay. He's a rhinestone cowboy. He's a Brokeback Mountain cowboy. Anyway, Hangman wins. I'm not surprised by this, but this feud is not over because I don't think Hangman or MJF has a place to move up to. So something tells me they're just going to continue this. As a match, it was fine. You know, me not being a huge fan of the AEW brand, I don't give a fuck about Hangman Page. I do like MJF. I don't give a fuck about Hangman Page, okay? I'm not one of these elite boosters. I wasn't watching Being the Elite. You know, so those are the people who are fans of Hangman. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who, you know, stumbled across AEW one day and became a super fan of Hangman Page with this fake ass Magnum TA thing he's got going on here. You know, it's not. I need to chill. I'm gonna chill, okay? I'm gonna chill. But it was fine for an opening match. Didn't hate it. Didn't love it. It deserves its spot on the card. Mercedes and Momo Watanabe shouldn't have been on this show. Brody King and Okada shouldn't have been here. The tag team title match shouldn't have been here either. So there should have been, instead of 9 matches on the show, there should have been 6. Also, the formatting of this show was dreadful. Regardless of what happens in the previous match, they move to the next match within 30 seconds. Okay? So WWE, they smother you in commercials. AEW smothers you in matches. You know, right? So it's all about what you prefer. You know? But this AEW stuff, there was no room to go to the bathroom. It was, if you didn't go to the bathroom during the first 4 matches, you certainly weren't going to go through the bathroom in any of the bigger, more important contests. Maybe you decided that Mariah May and Toni Storm wasn't for you and you went to the bathroom then. But I can't imagine anybody who spent $50 on this show deciding they're going to go to the bathroom during Ospreay and Fletcher. Or maybe you went to the bathroom in the main event. Maybe you went and warmed up the car. You know, like you. I'm pretty sure some people did. They were like, shit. I'm gonna stay here just long enough to sing Edge's music. Then I'm going to warm up the car. You know. But that's that. Overall, the show was fine. It wasn't the worst AEW pay-per-view in the world, but it wasn't great either. It was too busy. It was too much. A lot of blood, a lot of stabbings, a lot of thumbtacks and glass and everything. Just extra shit. Let's talk about outside of Gorilla Cookies and the gay Korean guy. The Queen of the Ring crew, okay? This cannot go unnoticed. The director, he has 2 actresses with him. He wants these 2 actresses to talk about professional wrestling. Black actress, white actress. He stumbles through what he had to say, showing he had no charisma, no gift of gab, nothing. And then they give the microphone to this black woman, who they said playing Babs Wingo in the movie. This black woman says she learned from pro wrestling that they know they're going to win before anyone else does. Thanks for teaching me that. And people are perplexed. I was perplexed. I couldn't believe she said that. I'm like, look, this is a smart fan base. Okay? AEW's fan base is the smart fan base. You're not going to offend anybody with that statement. It's not like there's some 7-year-old next to you like, wait, this is all fake? No. These are all 40-year-old neckbeard Eddie Kingston fans. They already know the business that they're watching and what they're consuming. I'm surprised that she thought this was a compliment. I don't know how that could be a compliment. Maybe in her brain, she had something else that was going to come out slightly better. But that's not what came out of her mouth was not a compliment. It was She called wrestling fake in front of the world and then said thank you. And then just adjusted her dress and sat down. Shit. She's an actress, man. You know what the weird thing about this is? There was a lot of actresses and actors and stuff on this show. Paul Walter Hauser was on this show. He was on the pre-show, of course. And I think he cracked his cranium at the MLW show. He took a table spot and banked his head off the concrete and instantaneously started showing signs of concussion. And that since that MLW show was not live, whatever happened to him there, well, he's probably fine by the time he did this pre-show for AEW. But there's a lot of celebrities on this show. Apparently there was a rock band in the pre-show. They showed Gorilla Cookies and the gay Korean guy. I wonder if Meltzer going to go on TV or on his radio show and talk about how there's too many celebrities. I wonder. Bet you dollars to donuts he ain't going to do it. There was too many celebrities showing up on this show. He ain't going to say that, is he? The Gorilla Chunk Cookies, that guy, he had a match. I don't even know what happened. I know Jericho snatched some masks and made one of the Lucha guys' mama cry. That was funny. I didn't watch the pre-show. I forgot. Or if we're being honest. If we're being fair, I forgot. I will say this. Outside of the matches that shouldn't have been on the show at all, of which there were 3 of them that shouldn't have been on this show at all, that main event was the worst match on the show. You know? Now, it's hard for me to say it's the worst match when it's the one you have to watch, as it's the main event. But that Momo Watanabe versus Mercedes was not good. The Shelton Benjamin, Turbo Floyd stuff just... I mean, I almost wanted to dig my own grave like a dog in the backyard, just start digging a hole for no reason after watching that. I was just like, I just got to get out of here. I got to go do something productive. You know? Something. Goddamn. Go build a birdhouse or something. I don't want to watch this guy hawk up on Shelton Benjamin. It's not exactly what I want to see at this point in time. It would have been fine for a Collision or fine for Dynamite. It just was a bad fit for this pay-per-view. But that main event was dreadful. And it was the worst possible thing. It was poorly booked, overbooked, and it was boring. Which is, in my book, the worst thing you could possibly be. You can be cringe. You can be green. You can be poorly coordinated, but you just cannot be boring. And that main event was boring beyond belief. I'm at the point now where I'm about to ask for Edge's retirement. I think we have to be... He's a legend. You got to show him some respect. I can't tell you the last time I saw an Edge match and thought it was good. I think Sheamus might have been the last time. And that was because Sheamus. Right? It's tough. It's been tough watching this guy in AEW. Clearly slower than everybody else. And a company that really, really favors the fast-paced, I would say undersized wrestler. The Swerve, the MJF, the Ricochet. You got big lumbering 50-year-old Edge in the main event. Look, just culturally, I don't think it's working out. I don't think he brings to AEW what he wants to bring. I don't think that he's achieving what he wants to achieve in AEW. I think Edge's post-retirement career has been a series of ups and downs. Where most of his matches are disappointments. His match with AJ Styles was a disappointment. The matches with Finn Balor was a disappointment. This match is a disappointment. A lot of these Edge matches have been the matches with Randy Orton were disappointments. Even though I didn't hate them as much as Last Man Standing thing, I think it was. That was entirely too long. But most of the matches I didn't hate. I just think that the standard had been raised and that he simply did not meet it. I think he had good matches with Seth Rollins. I think he had a solid match with Roman. But I think a lot of the Edge matches just are not meeting the bare minimum standard for today's wrestling. He looks old. He sounds old. He's not aging like Punk is. He's older than Punk. And it's not working out. I understand he fought so hard to get his career back, but I think he probably should have retired 3 years ago. You know, he's been back 5 years now. Think about that. He came back in 2020. It's 2025. He's been back 5 years now. Enough's enough. It's time for him to go on his farewell tour. And I hate to say that, but it's over. He's washed. And Moxley should retire too, because he's been washed for the last 3 years. When was the last Moxley match that was any good? When was the last time you watched a Moxley match and felt like you got 100% effort from him? Never. Like, it's amazing to me. And at least, to a degree, the AEW fans have not been hypocrites. A lot of them are very mad at Edge. A lot of them are very mad. They love talking about how washed CM Punk is. Because he went to WWE, so he's washed all of a sudden. They never said he was washed when he was in AEW. As soon as he went to WWE, he was washed. But Edge, I think I was willing to give him some grace for like the first year or two, just to getting his legs back underneath him. But it's been a while now. And he's been having some really good opponents, and even these matches have not worked out. So I'm not surprised that a match with a lazy bum like Moxley hasn't worked out. That match was dreadful. It was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment to both guys who are modern wrestling legends. I'm just going to put it out there. You got guys who've been in main events, won world titles. Their matches should not look like Andre in 1990. This looks like shit. It was terrible. And they shouldn't have been in the main event. Let's just be honest. And they're not helping anybody. Moxley is not elevating anybody with this Death Riders thing. Edge isn't elevating anybody either. Even though he claims he just wants to help the young guys. Help them how? Just by being in the match with them? That's ego talking. You're going to learn something working with me. Yeah, doing jobs for you. That's fine and all. But you ain't got the spring in the legs no more. You should be a producer or something. I just don't know if I can honestly give Edge any more chances. I think it's time to call it a day. I think it's time to wrap it up. He got 5 years of his career back. I just don't think that he needs any more. I don't think that there's anything more to prove. And I don't think he's even a draw anymore. He's a nostalgia act. And that works fine every once in a while, but not every single week. He might need to go like Sting and get a tag team partner and work tag matches. But Edge is cooked. It's over. And Moxley is cooked too, but he's not as cooked as Edge. Edge is 4 or 5 years into being washed. Somebody needs to sit him down and say, it's over. We're done. We're putting you on like they did with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett ended up on the pre-show. Remember, he was in a feud with MJF. They stopped that cold and threw Jarrett on the pre-show. They might need to throw Edge on the pre-show like Jericho. And Christian. AEW needs to shake these guys. They really do. And as much as I don't like Will Ospreay, you got to get him to the main event. If he's going to be going out there doing all these spectacular matches, epic match every week, he should be in the main event. If he's going to get 5 stars in the 4th fucking match or something like that, the 6th match, and outshine your main event, and the fans want to see him, and they're paying tickets to see him, even if it's not a lot of people, even though there was more than expected this time, then he should be in the main event. He should be your world champion, or he should be a top contender. It should not be fucking Edge. It should not be Moxley. You have to be realistic. And I get that Tony Khan he loves to buy legitimacy. And he thinks that having these guys on his roster, these legends, makes his roster look strong. But there's a difference between you got some legends on the roster and then you just got some old niggas on the roster. Edge and Christian are getting close to just being OGs. Just old niggas that sit on the porch and drink and hang out. I don't see them being productive. Christian is not really even... For starters, there's nothing he can do with Kip Sabian. Kip Sabian is trash. He's garbage. But he hasn't done anything to elevate Nick Wayne. If that was the goal. It hasn't worked. Because Nick Wayne doesn't wrestle on the show. And Edge, he's supposed to elevate, what, Jay White? You brought Jay White over, he was supposed to be a star. Now he's got to be rehabbed by working with Edge? That just goes to show how terrible you booked him up to this point. But at least he ain't hanging out with fucking Juice Robinson no more. That main event pissed me off, and it went on for so long that I just have so much frustration. And then the booking of it was a disaster too. But I've already talked about that. I'm rambling now. It's time to go to sleep. Thank everybody for your time and donations for people who decided to send me some money. Thank you very much. Everybody else, I appreciate you very much, even if you're just listening. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Yeah. We're just gonna